Good morning, everyone. My name is Delight Mells, and I'm one of the training specialists here. We're getting reports that there's significant internet connection issues. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my web camera off. And if you can hear me, please go ahead and type into your questions panel. If you haven't connected to your questions panel area, if you haven't located it before, you can expand the orange box with the white arrow and type into that area. So if you happen to have any issues this morning with audio connection, we would encourage you to try dialing in. If you look at your web controls in the audio area, there's a phone number. So you can call in if you have any problems doing that. Or let's say you get kicked out, like something happens with your internet, you can absolutely just click on the same link you used to get into the training today, and you'll be able to re-log in. So while I have you all here for a moment and we're testing our web controls, what is your 3 quarantine essentials? So this is kind of like an icebreaker. If any of you say toilet paper, I'm going to be I'm I'm gonna be surprised. But I'm looking I'm checking to see if Sina's like it's toilet paper.
Yeah,
And
I'm
this
going to
is
be
like
disappointed that you didn't prepare for that.
yeah, what are your three
Milk duds.
quarantine essentials? It can be food, it can be people. I have daily walks, no dishes and plants. Yes. Coffee, fresh fruit, my dog. Water, food, and a phone. Food, naps, and Netflix.
Netflix. Yes.
Hey. Coffee, cereal, and a good book to read. Hand sanitizer, the internet, and coffee. Hand sanitizer is a good one. I'll be happy. Yoga, coffee, and my dog. Oh my. Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus. Hey, Chuck, that's right. Fresh air. Good job. Yoga, coffee, and snacks. Essentials, internet connection. Don't we all need that? My cats, my workout machines, and home. Oh, you guys are awesome. Coffee, my dog, and Nintendo Switch. Great. Well, while
I
we're
will
just kind of
say, this
getting,
is Tina.
go ahead.
Hey, this is Tina, and I will say that as much as I love my coworkers, Delight and Cassandra and Kara, I like petting my cat while I'm thinking.
I
It's
know,
really
right?
fun. I love my new office mate.
Your coworkers.
Well, right
What?
now she's my fluffy office mate, and it keeps me calm.
Aw. Yeah, I would
Hi, I'm
have to
here.
say, oh, hey, Carol, we just did a quick little icebreaker of our 3 uh quarantine essentials. So
Oh, cool. That's why you guys were talking about fluffy helpers.
yes, yes. So I can turn it over to you. We are experiencing degraded audio, so I turned off my webcam and briefed everybody on how to use the audio call-in feature. You can call in and you can come back into the same training with the same link
Okay.
if you get disconnected.
Okay, awesome. I will turn on my video just for a second, just to say hi to everybody, and let me work on grabbing the actual controls here to share my screen. Let's see.
I got you.
Change to me. Me. Let me show my screen. All right. Welcome everybody. And we're all glad you're here. We're going to be sharing some interesting new information about electronic signatures. And I just want to say hello real quick on camera. Hi, everybody. It does help for us to have our cameras off when there is, audio troubles like this. And there's a nice big group here. So I'll turn off my camera for now, and you'll continue to hear us. As you know, you do have your full training staff here online as well to help us with questions as we go. There's no rule saying that the session has to last the entire time, but we're happy to have it last as long as up to its end, an hour and a half, in order to help us understand the topic. As always, we'll do our best to answer your questions during the session. And if we can't do that, we love to get them by text, because then we have an opportunity to work with your questions later and to help us understand a little bit more about how we should be reforming our FAQs in order to help us all understand. Okay, so just as a precaution, if you're out there and your audio is not muted, you want to go ahead and mute your audio. Let's keep the phone lines and the audio lines via the computer nice and clean. And if you by chance have shared a link with other folks, you could sign in if you want using the question area. Let us know that you're there. If you haven't, then that's okay. You're here and you can see how many folks are in the session with you. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about signatures and different requirements that are happening at this time. It's interesting. We've been talking about electronic signatures for quite a while. This is from the standpoint of documents that you or a provider, if you are a provider, the collective you as the provider role would turn in to Senior and Disability Services to request services on behalf of an individual with a waiver or PCS or other documents that are, other programs that I'm not specifically naming. This pertains to all of the programs and services, all the programs that SDS operates, and then by extension services that our providers operate. So as we know, we have a current COVID-19 state of emergency in Alaska. And what we are conveying here is that two things. We will now accept electronic signatures on documents that require legal authorization. That change goes into effect May, and we did not put a specific date on it because some of us may have work in progress already, and some of us are starting new work. And depending on where you are, with each case or each document that you're working on, you can follow this rule after you know it. Okay, so that is why we kind of left it a little open there, but May. Okay. Electronic signature acceptance continues after the COVID-19 health emergency ends. So let's look a little bit at what signatures are, what electronic signatures are, and when to use them, particularly an alternate signature method, which is called documentation of attestation. And a person who has the authority to sign can attest to their agreement with the document during COVID-19, rather than electronically signing or physically signing. Now, all these methods, of course, we prefer physical signatures, which, of course, due to social distancing, are most likely not going to happen. But that's okay. There are ways to get a physical signature without being in proximity to the person signing and with maintaining social distancing. And there are ways to use attestation instead. So please know before I start, and I'll say it again, before we start with more info, all the documents that have an attestation statement rather than a signature, either physical or electronic, they will need to be signed. They will need to be resubmitted, signed, either electronic or physical signature, after the COVID-19 emergency is declared no longer an emergency. So that they will need to be signed and resubmitted. So before, don't worry so much about when that happens, because it's not going to be a separate effort to collect documents. We're expecting them to be turned in with renewal of the particular plan, service plan, whatever it may be, or an amendment to that plan, whenever that may be. So if an amendment happens first after the emergency, is over, then you would turn them in then. And the person would need to sign a little bit extra documents from the last plan and their current amendment or plan. And then when their plan renewal comes up, if there weren't any other opportunities to turn them in, then you would turn them in with the renewal. So you'll need to track them, but you won't need to have a separate deadline just for that. It'll just go with the regular deadlines that you already have. Okay. So we'll say it again, but we will have the attested documents signed at some point through a regular process that you already maintain. Person will just have some extras to sign. So you might want to explain that to people just so they don't say, didn't I already do this? Help them understand what that's about. Okay. So this also extends to documents. We have a short list here. We haven't listed all the documents, but when we list them, we're saying all the documents that would be used to be submitted to SDS. Support plan, amendments, release info, provider certification, and personal care services timekeeping. Those are all able to be signed in these methods. Again, attestation is gonna be re-signed after COVID-19 is over, and it's available now for during COVID-19 for all these, including QDCs and VODs. We do have a short Q&A down at the bottom. So the requirement for signatures, meaning electronic or physical, is temporarily suspended due to rules for social distancing. And the substitution for that, because it's COVID-19 at this time, is submitting the attestation. And it's a sentence, a documentation of a conversation that occurred where the person who was the authorizing party attested to their agreement with the document. Okay, I'm going to jump out to my questions and just make sure I get it. Let's see. I don't want to necessarily read them all out right now, but I just want to make sure I get your train of thought here. Okay, guidance on home visit forms. I'm thinking that that's what HV means. How do we know we won't get found in an audit in the future without signatures on home visit forms? My best answer, well, let me think about that, okay? Let me go back to that, and we'll answer a little bit better. In the meantime, training staff maybe jump out and find a couple of different regs where we require signatures, particularly in the work of a care coordinator and visits and things like that, and maybe we'll be able to answer that better. Question says, will this document be sent to providers? It is in the handouts area of this webinar. You can actually download it now, and we always email it to you again. So whoever's in the webinar will get it. We will also have it posted on our website. Give us some time to get those two things done. It does take a little bit of time to, to have it cook, if you will, and, create the email to send to everybody. Can everybody see my screen okay? It should say symbol of intention and things like that. I just hope my screen's not frozen out there in the world. Does it say
It's
signal?
not. Yeah,
Okay.
so your screen is moving, but you've got your mouse hanging over something called star files, and so it's like got a
Oh
drop
boy.
down that's like blocking the first upper left hand corner.
Oh, you know
So
what that is? That's a weird, get rid of that. Ugh,
it's like an
sorry.
Adobe thing. Yeah, it's okay, guys. Just for the rest of you out there, we're often working off of one little laptop screen right now, and we're
Mhm.
doing magical things that way. But
And you know what I
it's
did? Yeah.
it's not usual for us.
I took my audience view panel and
Mm,
stuck it on the upper corner, and I didn't even see that because it was
yeah,
covering it.
yeah, no, that's fine.
So
Yeah, it's moving
anyway,
a little slowly right now. We just, yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm very proud of Alaska's internet providers and this kind of,
Okay.
demand that they've had to deal with recently. And
Yeah.
nobody's collapsed completely for very long. So I think they
Yeah.
are doing an excellent job.
Yeah. Yeah. Us too. Me too. I think that, that's why we made our webinars be for a little longer, just in case something happened and, we have to come back to it. But anyway, so what's a signature? A signature is a symbol of intent. Um, please know that we did consult with a few experts on signatures and the history of signatures, including our um, our unit division law staff that helps us quite a bit, and we're very thankful for them. About what a signature is. It represents a person or an agency's intention to agree, authorize, or give permission on a legal document. So what can a signature be? It could be what we call a wet signature, which means just that we physically signed it with a pen, a stylus on, a touchpad or a little pad that accepts the stylus input, or perhaps a touch screen, a stamp, which is the same as a physical signature, or your finger. When you sign off on something using your finger, that is also a physical signature. We do get a lot of questions about stamps. Obviously, it's not the same to use a stamp digitally as it is to use it on paper. So there are some thoughts about that. Since we require a witness anyway with a stamp, then when we get more into knowing what electronic signature is, there are some options for stamp signers. It can be made, a signature can also be made electronically through proprietary signature software that has some form of authentication. And so I'm going to throw it out there. We don't, of course, require or recommend any types of software, but common ones can be things like Docusign and some of the Adobe, short of the free download Adobe, there are formats of Adobe that you can buy which have an electronic signature ability within the document to sign. And so when that happens, what it is there's a little bit of authentication that occurs. For example, in Adobe, it's pretty simple. You can sign physically using your mouse, or if you have a touch screen, you can use a stylus or something like that. And then you can store it, and you can use it again if you have it stored. You can use that signature again and just plop it onto the document. That is a little form of authentication. Of course, Docusign has its own format, which I'm not prepared to explain, but something that has the intent piece of it within it, which is pretty common nowadays. So those are two examples. So electronically, okay? So we also always encourage signatures to be completed with social distancing. And here are some examples. Printing a document, physically signing and scanning. You could send it as an attachment in a secure encrypted email, which is DSM. Okay, you can send DSM to non-DSM emails, and you could send them kind of a little mini account that is encrypted, which is just a conversation, an email string between you and that non-DSM email that exists for 15 days. So you can have a back and forth of attachments that contain PHI, that type of thing. We say encrypted email because these documents always contain PHI, and that's just, we want it done like that. It has to be done like that to comply with HIPAA if we're using email. Of course, you could physically mail documents back and forth. And then if by chance someone had an opportunity to be near enough to the person within 6 feet to get a physical signature, it could be done. So we are saying that it's not off the table. If it can be done, it could be done. Wearing a mask and 6 feet of social distance and sanitizing objects that, you use hand sanitizer, then hand them the document. Maybe you wear gloves, that type of thing. It's not fully spelled out here, but if you had the chance to collect a physical signature, you could do so. Let me go to my questions and just make sure I got it. All right, I think I got good questions there. We'll come back to those. The electronic signature software, if it includes an opportunity for a person to type using a font of their choice, like whatever they pick or whatever it is in the software that just is the default, that is also accepted. So the signature can be, the person's original mark or an electronic signature, or it could be a typed in signature, which comes from that process. The person has agreed to sign through that Docusign or Adobe or something else similar, and they're choosing to type it in. So that is where I was trying to think it through with the stamp signers, that their witness can sign using they could type in for that. They could type in their name, and they could say, they're witnessing the person. They could authenticate that person's signature by either typing in the person's name on their behalf and then putting in their own name. And, you could make a note that says they usually sign with a stamp. Since a stamp is considered a wet signature, you could certainly use the electronic part, and their witness can help them, get a signature typed in. Okay. Okay, so the choices are there for social distancing signing. Okay. During COVID-19 emergency declaration, providers, recipients, and representatives may use a documentation of attestation to show their agreement and/or authorizing documents filed with Senior and Disability Services. So what's an attestation? We do have listed here the methods for authorizing a document. Attestation, how do you do it? So a care coordinator or a provider we have to get the document to the person so that they can read it, or their person who helps them can read it. Okay. So the authorized signer, right? So we send it by a secure encrypted email, fax, or mail. Like, I know a lot of people don't have fax at home, but it could happen. Maybe you're sending it to a provider who's still working in the office. Maybe one person's working or something like that. I don't know. But if there's a fax, you could use it. You can call on the phone or perhaps use a video chat if you prefer to review the document with the person. And then you ask, do you understand, agree, consent to, and authorize this document? The recipient or representative can verbally consent, agree, or authorize the document. If people need assistance to talk on the phone, if a person uses another way other than a phone call to normally communicate, their rep, we realize that many people don't physically sign their own plan. Okay, so they have a representative. If there's another way that representative communicates as an accommodation, like TTY or something like that, that's okay too. A care coordinator or provider documents the interaction in their service notes. It's very important to keep a good service note as to when this happened and what you did and why during COVID-19. Okay. A digital signature or a wet signature, same thing for these purposes. A care coordinator or provider sends a document in PDF form And hang on just one second. I'm going to grab my list here of attendees, and please, if you could make sure
Got it.
that you're on mute. Okay, thank
Um,
you. Sorry. It's all good. So a digital or a wet signature, we send the document in a non-editable format to the person, a digital document like PDF, using secure email. The representative or recipient draws, types, or places their signature on the signature line using whatever methodology, mouse, stylus, or finger, or touch screen, or keyboard. You can type however it is, however it works, to indicate their consent, agreement, or approval. And the date of approval, they fill that in too. So they put in their signature in those formats and the date. Send it. They send it to you. You send it via. This is how it happens. Okay. Care coordinator can send documents for review via secure email, DSM. An agency representative responds to the same email string. The care coordinator updates the signature line for the agency on an original PDF, on the original PDF. And the care coordinator saves the email string to PDF and retains it for your records. So the conversation that you're having, you know, sending the document back and forth for review, those things are what you keep on record for your interaction between a provider and or a person. So we don't want those submitted with documents. We want you to keep those on file, and we want you to have accurate documentation in your service notes as to what you talked about, did on the person's behalf, as a care coordinator would normally do. For what should you send to SDS? For an attestation, a care coordinator or provider would use direct secure messaging to email SDS the documents with a recipient's alternate signature. That attestation is called alternate signature as well. Attach the documents that were attested by the client representative. We're just using verbally as the default there, but you know, if a person uses another method to attest, then for accommodation that could happen. Includes the following in the body of the email. I've reviewed the following documents with client representative, and then a list of the titles attached and the dates of attestation. And the statement, the recipient rep has agreed, consented to, and approved the attached documents. And an example is here. So it says, I've reviewed the following documents with Papa Peep, Bo Peep's father, then the list, there's only 2, and Papa Peep verbally agreed, consented to, and approved the attached documents. That is what's written in the email. And then on the actual document, the signature line has this: verbal attestation of Papa Peep, Bo Peep's father, via call 4/1/2020. I know it says 4, but we were previously accepting these attestations before May anyway. So we are just giving you a format to use here because we're kind of getting a lot of statements that are sort of all over the place. And that's okay. I mean, we know it wasn't, you know, we were all kind of trying to think this through. But this is what your attestation is going to look like. You're going to send us an email. You're going to take care of business using DSM and review process of the document that the person's attesting to. They have to know what they're attesting to. So they have to get it. They have to have time to review it. Then they indicate to you that they agree verbally or they by accommodation methods. Then you send us a list with a statement that I've reviewed the following documents with this person, and then the statement recipient rep has agreed, and then a list. Okay, so that's what we want to see. And then on the document, it looks like that. And these are available during the time of COVID-19 emergency declaration. Okay, the attestations are available during the time of COVID-19 emergency declaration. Electronic signatures and, of course, wet signatures, to include stamps, are available from now on. Okay, not ending on COVID-19's end. So a digital wet signature looks like this. A person can use digital tools to draw their signature. And this little example here is pretty cool. I'll make it a little bigger. You can kind of see that this is a little example from Adobe. The person can choose, they just click on draw, and then it gives them a way to draw their signature, even if it looks like a little scratch or a squiggle. Lots of times they do look like that with those digital tools, and folks are not familiar with them, but that's okay. Then they can save their signature and they can apply it to the line. Okay, so that would be a function of Adobe right there, if that is what works for the person. You zoom out a little bit. They place the signature on the document, enter the date, and save it, and then send it back. They can send it back with the DSM that you have extended to them, or they could mail it or fax it back. Possible. Okay, the providers who are signing a document, similar methodology. If it's going to be, you know, how would we have a provider fill a provider entry here? A care coordinator would send the document for review via DSM. The agency would look at the document, respond to the same email string with a statement on behalf of the agency, my agency, I certify the previously attached documents are true and correct. And then on the signature line, a care coordinator would enter the wording that you see here, certified by DSM at 9:35 a.m. on the date and the person and the agency. Okay, so this is how we're documenting, you know, our planning meetings and our interactions with, I'm generically calling them planning meetings, but you could also interact. You could also use this methodology and proof of interaction with teams for, you know, talking about services or determining the appropriateness of services or any of the updating that you do and helping that you do with agencies to the care coordinator would do with an agency that helps, you know, move the service forward or make it happen. Okay, let me go to my questions. Okay, all right, looks good. We'll get to those in a bit. What do we not accept? Okay, so what do we not want to see? We do not, what will we send back as incomplete or insufficient, if you will? Documents that are missing signatures. So missing a signature means there's no signature, or if there's a legal guardian, they have not signed, even if the client has signed for themselves. Okay, so legal guardian, they need to sign. If they don't sign throughout the document, you know, and it's the same person, then that's going to be missing, found to be missing. Okay. Power of attorneys can sign. People who are their current active guardian definitely needs to sign. We don't accept screenshots of partial pages. So that little picture there is like if I was to, you know, use my snip tool or copy and paste a little bit of a document and say they signed it, here's just their signature. We need to see the whole document. It needs to be assembled so that we can tell that the person knew what they were signing. Written confirmation, which is sent by unsecured email. Documents must be included as an attachment in a DSM. So don't send us unsecured emails with these things. And then finally, documents that reuse signatures from something previously approved. So I wouldn't go and get a screenshot or a snip of somebody's signature from previous year and paste it onto today's document. That is not the same as allowing a person to authorize using the software that allows the electronic signature. Okay, so copy and pasting onto a document from something else that's previously authorized separately outside of the Docusign or Adobe or similar software, that is not accepted, because that is not giving the person a chance to authorize it. Between all these methods, there should be a way to get that done. Okay, so common questions. What if I take a picture of the whole signed page? You could do that. We may accept a picture file of a physically signed document, right? As long as it's clear, we need to be able to read it. It needs to be legible in terms of not full of shadows. It needs to not include the computer screen and the computer that you're taking a picture of. We have received pictures that were done on somebody's phone of their computer sitting on its desk with a document on the screen. We can't read it because it's just a picture of a computer with a document on it. No matter how hard we try, we can't tell exactly what that is. So it needs to be the document needs to be the only thing that the picture is of. And so there is software or apps out there that will, take a nice picture of the document, just the entire document. So you can explore that if you are using a phone to do those things. All right, nothing takes away the DSM part. Nothing takes away HIPAA and storing of documents and things like that. We're just giving options and answering the question. What if multiple providers sign different pages and the signatures are not all on the same page? Go ahead and turn in all the separate pages. We'll accept them as long as all the required signatures are there. What if I'm missing just one signature? Should I turn it in? No. Everybody needs to sign the document, before submission. Okay, so don't send in incomplete, in terms of signatures, incomplete materials. Can electronic signatures be used on VOD, verification of diagnosis, and QDC, qualifying diagnosis certification forms? Yes, the medical professionals, diagnosing professionals may use electronic signatures. And finally, in our thought process, we wanted to answer this. We thought it might be a common question. Why must we go back and collect signatures on the attestations? So what we're trying to do is prevent misuse of attestations during the emergency health declaration. A signature is always the best way to tell that the person authorized a service, reviewed a document, and signed. And since this is not a physical signing or even an electronic signing with some sort of intent around it, it's a documentation of a conversation which indicated intent, Then we're going to need a signature. Like I said before, this is not a separate effort to turn them in on a certain date after COVID. It is a separate effort where you'll turn them in at the next available amendment or perhaps renewal of the person's plan, whatever that may be. Okay, so the person's going to sign a little extra and you're going to track that. And the responsibility for the original intent of the signature in terms of all these methods, the responsibility for that is with the person who's offering the methods to sign. That would be the provider, whether they're the care coordinator or a different service provider. Okay. So I am going to go down to our questions and just kind of view them a little bit here. And I'm going to get myself reconnected with my list of people and all that good stuff. I apologize for the for the strange silent periods, but they're kind of like a feature of webinars. I'm going to go ahead and tackle our questions. I will start at the beginning of them. Thank you to my staff for jumping in and answering them, and I'll read them out too for the benefit of everybody here. Okay, if we get an e-signature like Docusign, will we eventually have to get an original signature? The answer to that is no. If you use an e-signature, if a person uses Docusign or Adobe or a similar proprietary software that has some kind of, albeit simple, method for them to sign within it or enter their name in a typed font intentionally within it, then that's a signature. And we will accept it. You will not go back and have to get an original signature. It's considered an original signature from now until there isn't an end date to that, to the e-signature. Okay, question says, agencies are required to do monthly visits for family habilitation. Would this fall under the same guidelines as care coordinator visits? There isn't a requirement in our regulation for formats of signatures on visits. There's requirements in documentation regulation and appropriate content for service notes. If your agency's practice is to require a signature, then that's your agency's practice. So, if you're doing visits virtually or by phone call instead, then you need to have a document that will show your service note and show that you're complying with the regulatory requirement for what the service is and what you're doing and what you talked about and the methodology that you by phone or video chat, that type of thing. And then if you have a person verified by signature, then you'll have to extend an opportunity to them that your agency determines. Okay, question says, if nothing is available, is an email attached stating provider client care coordinator agrees to the action within the support plan allowable? The answer is you don't have to send SDS the email, but you need to put a statement in the signature area that the agreement was made through the email on a specific date, and you keep that in your records. We always say, it's easy to turn it into a PDF and keep it on file. Okay, that kind of keeps it out of your piles of emails, if you will. Okay. If my fax is wireless, can I still send documents of all kinds? Yes. Do providers of PCS services send email in addition to uploading to Harmony for renewals? Nothing is different about PCS and renewals. Okay,
Hi, Kara, it's Sina, and I would say that that's just about exactly the same question you just answered. About do we have to send an email chain with our Harmony documentation
no.
or DSM documentation? No, it's on, look, you're providers and you have your own responsibilities. It's not on SDS. We need to see an attestation, can't speak, attestation or an e-signature of some sort. It's on your agency's responsibility to make sure you're keeping that documentation.
Good, thank you. Next question says, what if the legal rep doesn't have email? We can do verbal attestation over the phone? Yes, it is fine to do verbal attestation. Just remember, you will have to collect their signature later. You will have to collect a signature when COVID-19 emergency is over at the next available amendment or renewal. Okay, next question. Presumably, the attestation email would not be a part of submissions that occur via Harmony. Correct. The email string, you save that in your records, and it should be good because it has times and days and things like that in it. You can convert it to whatever file format you want to keep it in, so it's not just always an email kept out there that you have to search for. Store it any way that your agency stores it. It is your responsibility to store it for future research purposes or remembering what you did and when. We don't need to see the email chain unless for whatever reason we may ask, but that's a very custom case specific. So no, we don't want to see that turned in. That is for you to keep. Okay. If documents have already been submitted with attestations on the forms, does a care coordinator or agency have to go back and submit a DSM with the sample attestation from the consumer legal rep? No. Do not go back and do work you have already done. Go forth from this day with the document that you see before you and the download that you have done of it, or when you get it in email, go forth and do this in the future. Attestations are valid during COVID-19. E-signatures are valid now and ongoing. And of course, the wet signatures are always valid. Hang on, I'm looking at the question. I'm reading. Okay, awesome. Let me scroll down a little bit more. Long one. Okay, would this be a good strategy under these guidelines? Collect a digital signature image, but instead of reusing that on multiple documents, each use of the digital signature acts like a stamp, and that a unique assigned PIN is collected via telephone or other method which authorizes their use of this signature image. No, I mean, I couldn't really say. What you're describing is the methods that would exist within a software that allows people to apply an e-signature. So we're not including, your internal creations in that. However, again, a signature is a verification of it's an intent. So we're not asking for or proposing that we would store signatures of people and apply them each time with some kind of other way. A person needs to have a document and apply a signature with intent. So that's going to be a physical signature, that's going to be software like that, and that's going to be attestations until COVID-19 is over. In either case, any case, the provider takes responsibility that the person is signing a document that they understand and that authorizes services. So you know, I guess the consequences there is that if you know, receive an audit where that can't be shown accurately to somebody who doesn't know the story and doesn't understand, you know, exactly what's happening, then it could be a finding, you know, or like hypothetically, I guess our hypotheticals are coming in, but um, if they can't tie it together, or if there's other circumstances that show that people were not aware of authorizing services, then that's going to be findings. All that stuff is going to be not part of what's accepted in the Medicaid programs at all. We have to give the person a way to authorize a document. What we're saying here is e-signatures on using software that has some kind of a intent structure to it. Okay, the handout is going to be on the website. It's not on there right now, but it'll get there. A couple questions on that. We are a SME provider. Are PCAs allowed to sign our work orders after the services are performed if the recipient is unable? Nobody should sign for someone else. The recipient needs to sign or give authorization for these things. That can be done through these methods. You need to connect with a care coordinator over these things. Okay, so they're going to be helping with these situations as long as the waiver's, you know, paying for it, of course. Have the care coordinator help out. Home visit forms. I've seen some home visit forms that included a PCA signature. Yeah, I mean, people who are with the person there might be part of contributing to a home visit collection of information. Could be. Okay. But this is different. I mean, I don't want to digress off of signatures. It's important to remember that a signature is intent. And so if we're developing other things that are not already currently accepted ways that your average person would e-sign something, then there's a lot of aftercare, I guess you would have to do for that. And because of that, it's extra work, and it's also exposing to, you know, things that don't comply. Okay, so okay, that is our presentation. Do you have any other questions? I guess I got to the bottom of the questions there. What other questions about signatures do you have? Concerns, thoughts?
Hey everybody, this is Sina, and I just kind of wanted to point out something that Kara this just popped in at the very bottom.
Uh-huh.
I want to be very clear that you understand that attestations are being accepted during this emergency declaration time. However, e-signature is a intended to continue on. We're going to continue to accept electronic signatures in the format that Kara just described. Going on. It's not just during this emergency time. It's from now until the foreseeable future, until it changes. Right now, we don't imagine that it's going to change. Okay. Also, we've had a lot of questions about the signature, and I just want to draw attention to the signature on service notes and whatnot. That's still a larger Medicaid reg set than what SDS governs. So you really need to be looking into the Medicaid program regulation set instead of just looking at SDS's requirements, because we kind of
True.
operate up underneath that.
True. And there are questions about, you know, can we get this person to sign? Can we get that person to sign? This is not a presentation about who is the authorized signer. This is about the authorized signer's ability to provide a signature either through electronic signature software or physical signature, as always, or during COVID-19 attestations. That's what this is. Sina's right. There's a bunch of other regulations that we should all operate under, or we do all operate under. Medicaid overarching regulations, which are starting at 7 AAC 105, that series. There's a bunch of those, so you can take a look at, you know, notes and signature requirements on notes and things like that there. More questions? Will behavioral health get on board with accepting electronic signatures as well? You know, good question. I'd have to take a look. It's my understanding, I could be out of, you know, it's my understanding that they do, but I'm not sure. I mean, don't write in and comment to me, hey, Kara, they don't. You know, I get it. But let's check into that for you, okay? Let's check into that. I do know that our wonderful guardians, our OPA guardians, are aware of this. So that might really help. We're hoping that this helps. Electronic signatures and of course attestations will help because there's just a lot of kind of a flurry of work that we're doing to try to help people right now. But we're hoping that the e-signatures is going to be helpful and save you some time and help our providers, you know, even medical providers sign. So that's a quick and easy one, kind of, you know, hopefully.
Yeah, I would say we've all seen a VOD or a QDC with the doctor's electronic signature.
Mhm.
Now they're good.
All
Yay.
SDS, yeah, it applies to all SDS forms. ROIs, questionnaires, rights and responsibilities, yes, everything, everything. E-signatures are accepted on everything, and that's perpetual. Attestations are only accepted during COVID-19. And of course, wet signatures are accepted at any time. Okay, other questions, thoughts, concerns? When you're talking about having documents re-signed after the pandemic, I just want to be clear, is that just for documents that do not have electronic signatures, only the attestation? Does it apply to ICAP documents as well? It applies to everything. So whatever document that you have that's been attested to by the signer rather than e-signed or physically signed, you'll have to get them signed again. Well, not again, but you'll have to get them physically signed and just keep it, you know, turn it in, and that will be at the next available opportunity, meaning amendment or renewal of plan, not a separate deadline for that. Might be even the same person, you know, maybe the same people. So at least it's not, you know, searching out other people that aren't perhaps, you know, the same people that you go to for the renewal. Other thoughts, questions, concerns? Last call. We don't have to continue. We can, you know, we can be finished. It's okay too. You can always send your questions, thoughts, and concerns to sdstraining@alaska.gov, sdstraining@alaska.gov. And we'd be very happy to respond to them and include them on our FAQs. We're really hoping that this is helpful to you. We kind of just got, I was laughing about it with my team. We kind of just got launched into the 21st century with the e-signatures. So we know it's different, but we're really, you know, excited about this. And we're, you know, since its e-signatures are accepted ongoing, you know, it's worth it to, if you're not already using e-signature, simple software, would be worth it to, you know, maybe investigate what you could do. It's up to you. You know, you're the provider. It is up to you. I have guardians who have given me permission to send documents via non-secure email. I've collected attestations this way. If I have permission from them to use the method, should I proceed? It's a little bit off topic. Your question really is about, you know, can I send non-secure emails to people if they say it's okay? My best answer to that is nothing prevents HIPAA from being enforced. Okay. My best suggestion here is I would practice with my guardians since they have email and say, hey, I have a way to make sure that your documents are sent with my special encrypted email, and I need you to use it because it protects your information and it protects the person's information. We had a whole separate training on how to do that and why. I truly believe that when we send non-secure email, that a person's information is very much at risk of being stolen. And we do have a separate training about that and why. But I would do my best to reach out to them and have them start using that. Of a similar example, maybe not so similar, but like when you get a loan from a bank online, or when you buy a house and they do all that, or buy a car, you can do all that stuff online now. They only use secure email. They have their own, methodology where you're told to use it and that's the way it works because of the sensitive nature of the work that they're doing with you. Same type of thing. Same type of thing. People's information is private, should be kept private. People join the programs with that understanding. I know people may want something, but I believe that if we reach out and kind of educate people on how to do it, that it could be done. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions about signatures, formats, e-signatures, attestations? Okay. All right. So I don't see any others coming in. I will go ahead and close our session. I really want to thank you for being here and talking about this great topic with us. And also for the wonderful work that you do. And I hope everybody is healthy and safe and having, a good Friday. And we'll catch up with you at our next opportunity. And we really thank you for everything that you do. We'll go ahead and close our session. If you have additional questions, please email at sdstraining@alaska.gov and look for my email or one of our team members' emails to come to you with the attachment that we shared, the document we shared. Okay, so we're always happy to interact. Have a great rest of the day and a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you online. Bye for now.